Imagine spending $6.4 billion and nearly a decade building a bridge to your biggest trading partner only to have the door slammed shut just weeks before ribbon cutting. That is exactly what is happening right now. President Trump has just threatened to block the opening of Gordie Howe International Bridge, a massive link between Detroit and U.S Canada. But this is just about the bridge. It's a high-stake ultimatum. Trump says it stays closed unless Canada renegotiates trade, pays compensation, and shows U.S. more respect. To begin with, let's look at the facts here. Gordie Howe International Bridge is a feat of engineering. It's designed to be the longest cable bridge in North America. But here's the kicker. Canada is paying for almost all the cost, and US only covers a very minimum cost of it. The deal reached years ago. The Canadian government funded about $6.4 billion of the project, and they were supposed to recoup back that money through tolls that they would charge on the bridge. However, Donald Trump is against that. Donald Trump argues that US has been treated unfairly for decades. In a recent Firestorm Truth Social post, he argues that because the bridge relies on American market to be profitable, the US should shut down at least half of the asset. He also accused Canada of using virtually no US content like steel from local millers or involving any US farms in the construction process. Now, Canada strongly refutes these claims and they point out to what the real issue is. And you see, Donald Trump's claim isn't about the trade, it's about policy. Donald Trump is using this bridge to hold Canada down. He's using this bridge to force Canada to renegotiate dairy trade tariffs, US alcohol not being stocked in Canadian province, and most importantly, Canada recent trade flirtation and deals that it made with China. So, why is this single bridge really important for US economy? We've already understood why it's important for Canadian economy, but why is it really important for the US economy? The Detroit-Windsor Bridge is the busiest commercial land crossing in North America, and currently it accounts for about 25% of all merchandise trade between Canada and the United States. Most of this trade or crossing usually occur on the privately owned Ambassador Bridge, and that's why Canada saw fit to replace the bridge with a new one, because the old one is currently falling out of state. It's aging, and the failure is likely to occur. And suppose if failure would occur on that bridge, and suppose, for example, there was a collapse, then the trade between Canada and the United States would halt or would be affected by about 25%. So, what happens if Donald Trump blocks this deal, and why is Fox News pushing back on it? You see, when Donald Trump blocks the bridge, the biggest industry that is going to be affected is the auto industry. There are a lot of auto parts that are crossing between the two borders, and most of these parts go through this bridge. And once this bridge is shut down or the deal is not reached, companies like Ford, GM, and Stellantis are not going to be able to access the parts that they need to meet up with the production. The auto industry is already facing some production hurdles, and closing this bridge will only just affect it more. And then there is issue of just-in-time manufacturing. Most of the business rely on just-in-time delivery, and for that to work very efficiently, and for that logistics to be very efficient, then the bridge should be operating efficiently, and there should not be hurdle on any bridge. A close of the bridge, even by weeks, affects efficiency and affects inventory supply to most of the business between these two countries. Then there is the issue of job losses between Michigan and Canada. You see, the opening of this corridor creates a new business adventure for most of the traders along that corridor. Suppose it's closed, there is likely to be job losses, and suppose it's closed, both sides are likely to lose jobs. So as much as Donald Trump feels that Canada is going to lose, US is also likely to lose in the process. Now let's get on the bigger issue here, the issue that is bringing controversy here. You see, Donald Trump is enraged by the fact that the Canadian Prime Minister Carney is looking to reduce the tariff impact on Canada by striking a deal with another country. He's striking a deal with China to supply more products, and Donald Trump does not like it. Donald Trump want that China will eat Canada alive, and even if that is a wild claim. And Donald Trump reiterated that instead of the limited tariff that is applied on Canada right now, he would increase it. Suppose China and Canada were to reach a deal, Donald Trump is threatening to impose 100% tariffs on Canada. And so far, there have not been any talks on that front. They have been called back to renegotiation. But here's the thing, closing this bridge just adds more pressure to Canada, forcing Canada to cut ties with China, forcing Canada to reinforce its trade ties with America. So what happens? You see, the bridge is done. The bridge has already been designated by the Department of Homeland Security as an official entry point into the United States. However, the president wants to revoke those permits, meaning that it's unusable by different trucks and vehicles coming in or going out of the country. It's just Donald Trump's classic negotiation tactics. You bluff, you force the enemy to a corner, you intimidate people, you create chaos, and then you force them to a dead end. And once they're in that situation, they're forced to make a deal, and they don't have any other option but to make that deal. So what do you think? Is the Trump right to demand 50% stake of the bridge that Canada paid for, or is it a self-defeating move, as the Canadian Chamber of Commerce puts it?